You wanna know what I've been weirdly obsessed with recently? Disney Channel original movies. Yeah, I know, weird, right?
So, if you don't know what Disney Channel original movies are, do we really have to do this? We all remember these, right? I'm assuming we all watched them at some point. Well, whatever. I might as well give the gist in case anyone hasn't. I'm sure we're all familiar with the kind of stuff aired on the Disney Channel. We had the sitcoms, the cartoons, whatever Disney 365 was, but past the usual 11 to 22 minute TV shows, a few times every year they would premiere a direct-to-TV movie on the channel. These films would often star actors from their current TV programs in new roles, and for me, it was often pretty fun seeing cast members from shows running in parallel get to work with each other. These were the Disney Channel original movies, or DCOMs for short. They were pretty low budget, but they had a lot of charm, and frankly at that age I didn't care. They tended to be more drama focused than comedy, and I think that gave them a certain flavor you didn't quite get from the sitcoms. Most of these movies would be one and done endeavors, but a few films were actually successful enough to warrant further installments. I think the most famous example is High School Musical, which got 2 following movies, the third of which ended up being released in theaters. I remember actually going to see it with my sister and her Girl Scout friends, but I didn't pay that much attention. One of the other Girl Scout brothers and I were playing like a Phineas and Ferb DS game. I was not a model moviegoer back then, I suppose.
I'm not talking about High School Musical today though, because I want to explore some of the deeper cuts. Also, frankly, there's a lot more competition when it comes to High School Musical. I would not be breaking much ground reviewing that. We've got feminist analysis videos about Sharpay being mistreated throughout the series. I don't think I can add much to that sphere of discussion.
There's a lot of movies to choose from. We've got films like Radio Rebel, Jump In, Camp Rock, and Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior. Yeah, Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior. Also on the list is Teen Beach Movie, Princess Protection Program, and Minutemen. That movie could be your life. But of all these movies and then some, the one I seem to want to review most of all is Lemonade Mouth, starring Bridget Mendler from Good Luck Charlie and Adam Hicks from Zeke and Luther. Why? I don't know. I guess maybe because I'm a musician, but Lemonade Mouth is not the only DCOM to be about music, so I don't know. I think I just remember this one really well and thought it would be fun to revisit. So, yeah. This is a bit weird for me. I've never really reviewed a movie before, unless you count the videos I made in 6th grade, so I'm kind of trying something new today. We'll see how it goes.
If I were asked to describe the premise of Lemonade Mouth in just a few words, it would be really easy. It's The Breakfast Club. It's basically just The Breakfast Club.
You know what I got for Christmas? It was a banner year at the Bender family. I got a carton of cigarettes.
I mean, me saying Lemonade Mouth is like The Breakfast Club is not novel or clever in any way. Everybody says it's like The Breakfast Club. Even the actors in the movie have described it as kind of like The Breakfast Club. The parallels are pretty clear. It stars 5 students, all from different walks of life, meeting in detention and learning to accept each other and overcome their differences. And stuff. I don't know. I guess one line I will draw is that there's a lot of emphasis on how the Breakfast Club students are all in such different cliques, while the Lemonade Mouth students are all kind of beaten down outcasts. But, I mean, still. Detention. 5 high schoolers. People were going to draw comparisons. Sadly, Lemonade Mouth did not become to Gen Z the generational touchstone the Breakfast Club was to Gen X. Instead, we have like, I don't know, Five Nights at Freddy's or something.
Hi.
Honestly, the more I think about it, the less the comparison actually fits. It kinda starts and ends with the 5 kids in detention bit. I guess 4 out of the 5 have romantic tension between each other in both films as well. Anyway, the story of Lemonade Mouth centers around these 5 students as they accidentally discover a musical affinity between each other and form a band that goes nuclear. And their rise to fame instigates a quasi-revolution that changes the pecking order of their local high school. I think they kind of overstated the revolutionary thing in the film and promotion, but whatever. The film came out on April 15th, 2011 as a direct-to-TV release on the Disney Channel. It premiered right after a new episode of Good Luck Charlie, which is fitting given that Bridget Mendler is the main figure of both that show and this movie. It's sort of funny though. Even though Bridget and Adam's characters are kind of sold as the leads based on the marketing material, they kind of like aren't. We'll talk about this more as I get into the meat of the video, but yeah, I think they're just so front and center more because they're the movie's legacy Disney stars, while the other 3 actors weren't as well known, at least among the movie's target audience. Honestly, Hayley Kiyoko's character has a better claim to the title of the actual main character. for whatever that matters. I would usually tune into the new DCOMs around the time Lemonade Mouth came out, but I distinctly remember liking the movie quite a bit more than the others when it first came out. Like, move over, Den Brother, move over, Camp Rock 2, move over. Actually, you can stay, Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. I watched it several times, and I loved the soundtrack. The song Determinate was on repeat, and Wen's rapping and piano playing there inspired me as a 9-year-old Eminem fan taking piano lessons every Wednesday. One thing I bet a lot of you don't know is that Lemonade Mouth was not an original story. It was actually an adaptation of a teen novel written a few years earlier with pretty much the same concept. A lot of people don't know this, but this is actually the case for a lot of the Disney Channel original movies. Not all of them, but a good amount.
I remember finding that out and for some reason being like, almost offended. I seem to have just been appalled at the fact that Disney would dare to adapt material from books for the big screen. How could they? To be fair, I think I was in like 4th grade. I think I just heard someone complain about the fact that so many big movies were adaptations once, and because of that I kind of took it to heart that adaptations were inherently bad or something. I don't know.
Speaking of kids' movies that are adapted from novels, this movie stars Adam Hicks, whose breakout role was in How to Eat Fried Worms. Fun fact, for some reason a lot of people in my generation really liked that movie. I remember watching it in class in 5th grade, and whenever this kid came on screen, a bunch of the kids would yell out Fregley. I guess because he looked like Fregley in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie.
Anyway, I've pretty much drenched myself in Lemonade Mouth these past few months. I've learned everything I can about this movie and a lot of other DCOMs to make sure I go in prepared. I even read the book. I originally wasn't sure if this was going to be a waste of time or not, but I did it. It was not a waste of time. Trust me. So, anyway, the comprehensive roast of Lemonade Mouth. Let's do it.
So, the film starts out in kind of an interesting way. It opens up with a show taking place at Madison Square Garden in New York. Yeah, that Madison Square Garden. LCD Soundsystem played their last show there. That doesn't really have anything to do with anything, and they're not even the most notable act to ever perform there, but I like LCD Soundsystem. We don't actually see much of the show. It's mostly just shots of the performers getting dressed and the fanatic crowds making their way to the stage. The whole scene is a backdrop for an opening monologue by Bridget Mendler's character about how the band Lemonade Mouth got so big, selling out shows across the world, how they all came to be from such humble beginnings. Detention. I'm surprised they have a room set up with a professionally engraved detention sign on it. I don't think high schools actually do that. It seems kind of expensive to have a room exclusively for after-school punishment, frankly.
The rules in here are simple. No eating, no drinking, no sleeping, no talking, no tapping, no texting. You break a rule, I add another day of detention. Are we clear? Great. All right. I have decided, rather than let you twiddle your little thumbs for the next hour, we are going to put those thumbs to use.
Oh great, corporal punishment. My favorite.
We're gonna clean up around here. We're gonna unpack, and we're gonna turn this storage room into a music room. I mean, we might as well make the best of it, right? We've been banished to the basement.
Is she okay?
I love the faces of the students watching this music teacher in action. They're just, like, trying to navigate the situation without making it worse. The music teacher starts expositing about how the principal of the high school has pretty much cut out all the funds for music and art, while blowing tons of money on the sports programs, and now she's left in a leaky classroom in the basement. She keeps ranting until the film has a freeze frame.
But, if I'm gonna tell you this right, I need to go back to the beginning. The morning it all began.
Okay, wow, so we're doubling up on the whole I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation thing. We started at the concert, then we went back in time to detention, and now we're going back in time again. Alright.
It's a normal morning at Movie High School. It's like any other high school, except everybody who goes there looks like they're between the ages of 18 and 23. Also, all the male characters look like Jesse Pinkman. We're greeted with the main 5 characters in this movie, and are given insight on some of their personal struggles that will be explored throughout the film. Stella Yamada feels like a fish out of water in her very scholastic and bookish family, and resents her parents for moving across the country against her wishes. Wen doesn't like his dad's 28-year-old girlfriend Sydney, and he feels displaced by her and his family. Charlie only wants to play drums, but his parents keep pushing him to get into sports.
Oh, your mother
We?
thought you might like to have this with you today. For luck.
It was your brother's. Tommy scored the winning goal at state finals with that ball.
Mom, what are you crying for? Tommy's just away at college.
As Charlie gets out of the car, he casts a lovey-dovey glance at Mohini, usually shortened to Mo. Her introduction isn't as overt as the others, in which she just straight up says out loud what's been ailing her, but it's not hard to gather that she is under a lot of pressure from her parents to lead a model student life. She's pretty good at playing the character around them, but she's been keeping a lot of secrets so they don't get mad at her. She's also dating one of the high school bully Jesse Pinkman characters.
So, the band and I, we're gonna ditch this morning, head on over to Ray's and practice for the Halloween bash. Wanna come?
Yeah, Mo, I decided to come to school today just so I could immediately leave and play hooky. That makes sense. Something I find really interesting about these movies is the weird blend of cartooniness and realism. Like, for the most part, most of the characters here are pretty restrained in terms of their personalities. Obviously, they're still definitely depictions and you wouldn't usually find people talking in the way they do in this movie, but altogether they're not super wacky. Well, with one exception, and this seems to be the case in like every single DCOM. There's always one villainous adult character who is like batshit crazy. In Lemonade Mouth, it is the school's one and only principal, Principal Stanley Brannigan, played by Christopher McDonald. Oh my. What can I say about Principal Brannigan? He's the light of my life. He's what I've been waiting for all this time.
Well, I think that Stella's still working through some anger issues about moving.
Yes, I can see that. But I'm afraid that shirt is...
What?
Question authority. Finally someone says it. We'd all be in a better place right now if more of us were questioning authorities.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw this film when formulating the idea for this video, I laughed out insanely loud when I saw that shirt be panned to. There's just something so funny about the whole, young lady, we don't like the idea of questioning authorities. I've admittedly always found the cartoonish ridiculousness of the Mr. Brannigan character to sort of be at odds with the rest of the movie. Well, I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but the lapse in characterization between him and the rest of the cast is very clear. If I had to guess, and I think this is probably a decent guess, I think the reason a lot of these films have these over-the-top villainous characters is because they want to make it crystal clear to the really young audiences that might be watching this film who the good and the bad guys are. There is no subtlety at all about how he's not one of the good guys. It might be more subtle if they just put up a bunch of neon signs that said bad guy whenever he's shown on screen. But you know what? As I said, I love these characters so much. So much. There's more or less not a single frame of this principal character that doesn't crack me up. Like, look at the faces he makes. It's just perfect to me. Anyway, while the principal goes on his spiel about how well he takes care of the school and keeps kids out of trouble, he and Stella both take notice of the 16-panel security footage setup he has as if he's the Simple Monkey from Toy Story 3 or something. Mo and Jesse Pinkman can be seen trying to sneak off campus. Of course, there's an unrealistic enhancement zoom in too. Anyway, this basically leads to the sequence in which all of our main characters get detention. Mo gets it for trying to cut class, although interestingly enough, her boyfriend doesn't get punished because he's in sports teams and the principal doesn't want him missing any practices. Olivia gets it for cutting class as well and reading alone in the janitor's closet. Honestly, if she really wanted to skip class, she probably should have just hid in a bathroom stall. I guess it might be kind of gross to read in there, but I mean, you have a lot more plausible deniability doing that, and if a teacher wants to bust you, it's really hard to confront you without coming off as predatory in some way. Make sure to subscribe to the Switchy YouTube channel for more cutting class tips. To be fair though, I love how the scene is executed and how Olivia just knows what's coming immediately when he opens the door. Charlie gets his detention after getting angry at soccer practice and throwing the ball that accidentally hits one of the coaches. Stella gets her detention while interrupting a school assembly at the new gymnasium that was paid for by a fictional sports drink company. The principal even plays a whole commercial for the product to start it all off, which, not to get political, but this whole scenario seems a bit ethically dubious. Corporate sponsorships in schools are a real thing, but later on in the film, it's revealed that the principal ended up removing all competing drink brands from the school's vending machines to appease his energy drink sponsors, which, like, that's probably not allowed in real life, I hope.
A student who's willing to take risks. An empowered student. What's expected?
Want empowered students? Then you're gonna get them.
Turbo blast. All our coaches.
My shirt, my decision. Okay, don't let your school take away your rights. Okay, be heard. Use your voice. Come on!
You know, honestly, I respect the enthusiasm the students have for Stella's cause, but I can't help but think that in any realistic scenario, most of the people in the bleachers just wouldn't know what's going on. I mean, most of the people here probably couldn't even read the shirt, and unless Stella told them all what happened, they definitely don't know that she was forced to cover it up. I think people would just be confused.
Ha! I just counter this 12-year-old Disney movie with facts and logic.
Wen gets detention while trying to do his history presentation for the biggest douchebag professor I've ever met in my life. Like, screw this guy. He's already snarking at his student after he shuffles with his papers for like 5 seconds. Anyway, it's revealed that the folder Wen thought his history project was in was actually filled with a bunch of Sydney's photography. He almost loses the chance to do his presentation, but fortunately Sydney comes to the rescue just in time with the history project folder. There is hope on the horizon until some kid starts teasing Wen about it, and then the teacher assumes that Sydney is Wen's mother, leading him to have a small outburst and call his teacher stupid. Frankly, this teacher deserves a lot worse.
So, that's what happens in the movie. It's a little bit different in the book. And, well, my dear Switcher, my sweet, gentle viewer, I don't actually know if you're going to benefit from me telling you this, but I'm going to anyway. So, Wen's whole conflict in the book is pretty similar to how it is in the movie. In both versions, he feels like he's fighting with Sydney for space in his dad's life, but their relationship is a little bit more complicated, because Wen has the hots for Sydney, and they don't really let up on pointing it out in the book. Which, I mean, I can get why they didn't want to carry that over to the movie, but what does that have to do with him getting detention? Well, the scene is set up the same way.
Our boy has to do his history presentation, and he still takes out his materials from a red folder, and in both versions, the folder materials were swapped out with something of Sydney's. Here's where things diverge. Well, first of all, in the book, Wen at this point is in the front of his class, while in the movie he's still at his desk. He opens the folder, and what he finds is a bunch of drawings. New drawings. New drawings of Sydney. We find out that she has been taking art classes, and one of them was focused on drawing the human form. These were naked self-portraits of Sydney that he is holding in front of his whole class. Then, and I take no pleasure in telling you this, okay, well, that's a lie, but it certainly isn't easy to say gracefully. Remember, he has a thing for his dad's girlfriend, and at the sight of a bunch of nude sketches of her, he gets a quote-unquote sideways teepee, and the entire class is laughing at him. In the panic, he apparently swears, drops the folder, and starts running. Yikes. Poor Wen.
You might think the book and the movie are pretty similarly family-friendly, but they're not. They really aren't.
There's a lot of parts of the original book that are sanitized for obvious reasons. It's actually really funny. When I was reading the library copy I got of the book, there were a bunch of underlines in pencil of all the risque content involving Sydney for some reason. I neglected to mention that the whole Wen boner scene is in the first chapter. The first chapter. I don't actually know why they're underlined, but I assume maybe some kid 10 years ago liked the movie and wanted to read the book, and they were surprised to find some not so family-friendly material. Or maybe their mother underlined it and then took it to the library to complain about lewd material in the novel her kid is reading.
What can I tell you, Jenny?
That you put the same value on the arts as you do sports. You've cut the music budget to zero. You've moved my classroom down to the basement. And for what? Some gymnasium?
Whoa. Sports bring donors,
Yes,
donors bring money, and money makes my school run.
Your school?
There's a lot of trade-offs with how much they had to tone down the source material to be on the Disney Channel, but to this movie's credit, there are no instances in the book where the principal cruises around the school on a Segway and then menacingly circles his co-workers like a vulture or a biker gang while lecturing them about corporate sponsorships. And frankly, I love this. I love everything about this scene. It's just everything I want and then some.
Stella takes the elevator down to the basement to make her way towards detention and comes to realize that the basement is basically where every activity in the school outside of sports is banished. This is supposed to beat in the fact that the principal of the school only cares about athletics, but, I mean, it's a pretty good basement. They seem to have a full dance studio down here, so, I mean, it can't be that bad. There's a cute scene of all the main characters getting a can of lemonade from the machine right outside of the detention room, and then we basically find ourselves back in the present. Also, damn, lemonade for 25 cents in 2011? Anyway, the music teacher, Miss Resnick, leaves the classroom to go yell at and be vultured by the principal, and the students start trying to clean up like she asked. And there's quite a bit of focus put on the droplets of water coming out of the leaky ceiling.
Droplets of water falling into a bucket and making a splash noise at routine intervals. Oh no!
They start playing music. And, it's an alright song. I don't really feel very strongly about it, to be honest. It's a sort of CCM sounding piano-driven pop song, which isn't really a bad thing, but it's not the kind of thing I usually go out of my way to listen to. Admittedly, I do kind of wonder how Olivia's voice is magically auto-tuned and where the background vocals are coming from most of the time. And when we do see the others singing back up how they already know the lyrics. Also, it sure is convenient that there is not only a left-handed acoustic guitar for Stell and a double bass for Mo, but they're both already in tune. That sure is serendipitous.
Look at me, I'm so funny. I'm pointing out the inconsistent logic of a movie's breakout musical number. I'm such a snarky, funny person.
Miss Resnick comes back to the classroom while they're finishing up the song, and they immediately scatter like birds. They initially think she's going to punish them, but she loved how they sounded so much that she not only doesn't get mad, she encourages them to become, like, an actual band. Well, I mean, she also clearly wants to use them as a means of proving the importance of the arts to Brennigan.
Do school principals even have enough financial control to completely cut department funding? I'm gonna chalk that one up to artistic license.
Miss Resnick tries her best to convince the five to form an official band, but pretty much all of them are initially uninterested. Mo is too focused on her violin lessons in AP classes, Stella thinks it's ridiculous, and Olivia clearly has too much social anxiety to sing on stage. The only person who's into it is Wen. Wen is always down to make some music. Bless his heart. He understands that music is just one of the things life won't quit.
The last time I performed on stage was my first grade recital, and 5 minutes into Baba Black Sheep, I threw up down Mikey Nichols' back.
Yeah, I remember that. That was hilarious.
No, it was humiliating.
Part of the reason Miss Resnick is so insistent they play together is so they can compete in the Rising Star Talent Competition, which is basically a talent show where the winner gets a free record deal. But our heroes are still not really interested or confident, especially because the school already has a super popular band known as Mudslide Crush. The main two members are also the bully Jesse Pinkman characters. After some more back and forth, they're not totally convinced, but it's clear they all considered it for a little bit. No official decision is made though. After detention, all the characters go back to their $1 million GTA 5 homes, and we get a better glimpse of their personal lives. We finally get a bit more information about Olivia, albeit not that much. She comes home to her grandmother and she tries to convince a very old cat to eat. Not a lot, but they are setting something up there. Wen is clearly avoiding his family because of his dad's girlfriend. Also, apparently, he has a horse. I wasn't really joking with that $1 million GTA 5 homes bit. Charlie's obvious love for drumming continues to be undermined by his parents. Most of these scenes only go on for a little bit, with the exception of Stella's, which lasts quite a bit longer.
Yuck, Dad. How can you eat that? Imagine how that poor fish felt.
Vegetarians rock. I love the wardrobe for this character. We're 2 for 2 right now. Stella feels kind of sidelined in her seemingly genius family, and she's pretty overt about the whole thing.
Sorry I'm not out inventing biodegradable plastic. Or I'm making my own toys, or... Oh yeah, curing cancer.
You know, Stella, I really don't like having my job be undermined like that. I work every single day with patients and their families trying to bring about new treatments to try and save lives. You realize cancer is one of the leading causes of death in this country, Stella? We've lost family members to it. I'm doing my best, Stella. Stella tells her family that even though she's not a genius, she is still capable of doing big things. But her stone-cold family isn't even listening and drops the "that's nice, dear" on her. Ouch.
Good morning, Mesa High. Yes, it's that time of year again. You have to get out there and vote because guess what? Yes, I have been nominated yet again for School Administrator of the Year. So let's keep that winning streak alive, shall we? Okay.
You can't do that! That's not how iMessage works! Stella sends out a text to the other 4 on their 2010 cell phones, and they all meet up at a local pizza place that night. By the way, Olivia, no offense, but that hat does not go with your outfit at all.
I signed us up for Rising Star this morning.
Oh, we're not experienced enough.
Which is why I also signed us up for Halloween Bash.
Check, 1, 2, check.
We can't play the bash, much like Crush is playing.
And we are opening for them.
Wen is so into it. He's so down with it all. He just lives for the act of creation. Mo agrees to one rehearsal, Olivia caves in, and it all ends up riding on Charlie's decision. I find that kind of interesting because he enjoys playing the drums so much. That's basically the primary personality trait established in this film.
You know what? Heads we do it. Tails we don't.
One of the misconceptions about Lemonade Mouth is that we were a natural fit from the start.
Oh, crap.
Is that we were a natural fit from the start. Totally not true.
Come on, Charlie, it's a simple 4/4 beat. You're not even trying. It's B to B flat, back to B, then an F sharp.
Oh, sorry about that, Stella. My bad. Next time I'll definitely be sure to play B flat on my drums.
Also, frankly, it would make more sense to describe the notes they're playing as B to A sharp back to B, because when writing out scales, it's common practice to use one letter for each individual note. So, for the major seventh or leading tone in B major, it's better to do A sharp as a more distinct way of communicating this little 1-7-5 thing they're doing. Beato. Actually, that's more of an Adam Neely thing to say.
The first rehearsal doesn't go well. Like, they stop playing after 5 seconds and Mo is the first one to quit. Charlie dips too at first, which surprises me. Stella, Olivia, and Wen try to convince the two of them to stay. Wen's always down. He's in it to win it. He starts playing some piano and basically everything works out immediately. And listen, I know that critiquing the internal logic of musical numbers in movies is like the lowest form of comedic online critique and analysis, but I do find it to be a bit of a clunky transition. It's just a bit sloppy. For what it's worth though, I do like the next song quite a bit, and once the song does break out, I think it's a pretty cute sequence. The song is called Somebody, and it's a pretty great uplifting pop rock ballad about overcoming stagnancy and stillness. Miss Resnick's dance routine is great, especially when she bumps into a student and tells him to go to class. So the song pretty much sells the entire group on the concept of making a band.
Olivia, did you really write that?
No you didn't. Lindy Robbins and Reed Verlney did.
After the band's rehearsal, Mo makes her way to an abandoned warehouse or something for a show played by her boyfriend Scott's band, the Jesse Pinkman Band, Mudslide Crush. It appears the band's leader, Jesse Pinkman, is ticked off that his upcoming set at the high school's Halloween party has been cut short by some up-and-coming band of quote-unquote nobodies, otherwise known as our heroes. Scott seems to be unaware of the fact that Mo is one of those nobodies, and she pretty quickly lets him know that. And the friction between them is palpable. It's pretty clear Scott is unhappy about the fact that she's in the band taking away part of his night, and Mo feels like she has nothing to be sorry for. Nevertheless, they try to set it aside as Scott goes on stage to play a song with Mudslide Crush. So, it's like some funky rap rock. One of my friends compared it to something sort of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I could definitely see where he's coming from, at least with the rhythm section. That bass is gnarly. I will say though that Ellen DeGeneres here is giving me much more of a Fred Durst vibe than he is Anthony Kiedis. Man, screw you. Don't say that. I'm sensitive. Any criticism I could give the song would be kinda missing the point, honestly. It's very much meant to be a boastful, tacky Disney Channel villain anthem, and for what it's worth, based on that, I think it succeeds pretty nicely. Interestingly enough, that's literally the only song they play. The set literally has one song. Are you guys really sure you want the full Halloween set? Word about the upcoming new band spreads pretty quick, and it seems that basically the entire school is mad at our protagonists. They really want the full Mudslide Crush experience, I guess. They're all down for a whole hour and a half of superstars with really cool cars. Also, good job to the wardrobe department for making Stella wear a shirt just saying, "Save the whales." 3 for 3. The band meets up in the basement to decide on a band name, but their meeting is turned sideways when Olivia comes back with a flyer she found outside of the classroom they're in.
Back off the bash. What kind of band name is that?
I love it.
No, this was on the door.
Whoa, what was that cut right there? That was like really weird. I know it's not uncommon for cuts to be a little mismatched, but the fact that Bridget Mendler is taking up more or less the same amount of space and just kind of swerves to the left with a different pose is jarring. If it was a lot further away or something, I think it would be a lot less noticeable. I don't mean to make a big deal out of this, but I don't know, I really reacted to it. It really hit me.
Anyway, we J-cut over to a television in the school's lunchroom where Principal Brannigan seems to give routine announcements throughout the day, like he's Dr. Wallace Breen from Half-Life or something. Seriously, it's the same feeling. I love it so much. I love this character so much. Mo approaches Scott after several missed calls and she gets the vibe that he's been ghosting her, and her anxiety is pretty vindicated when he just heads off after like 30 seconds. Charlie does the classic orbiter finesse and sits right where he left immediately.
If a guy doesn't call for a few days, should the girl worry? Do guys do that? You're a guy, right?
Wow.
No, I just mean like, you're my friend. You're not like a guy.
What you're going through is very painful, I know that.
You get stabbed in the ribs. That's painful. This shit, I don't feel nothing. Nothing. Dead. Empty.
Am I interrupting?
Never change, Wen.
A bunch of the mudslide crushers start bothering Olivia and the other members swoop in to try and help, but frankly they are pretty easily put down. Charlie specifically tries to stand up to their lead singer Ray Jesse Pinkman Fred Durst, and backpedals pretty quickly once things get physical.
When? Yeah. A little help here, please.
No, I'm a lover, not a fighter, please.
Things continue to escalate until Stella shows up and spits a mouthful of lemonade into Ray's face. Savage. Stella does not take anyone's BS. The whole group keeps arguing until Brannigan drives in with his Segway. And man, can I just say that this Segway alone makes this movie so much funnier? Like, every scene with it just brightens my day. They could have just made him walk in for these scenes, but they instead decided to give him a helmet and a Segway so he could glide around the school like a Happy Wheels character. It just completely cracks me up.
What is going on here?
Principal Brannigan, I went to go get a Turbo Blast, and they just start threatening us. And next thing you know, it's lemonade mouth over here, spits all over me.
He said it! Brannigan really is a terrible principal, though. Besides all the budgetary stuff, going on just one student's word like that and writing detentions on the spot is inexcusable. Wen makes his way over to Olivia's house and meets her grandmother. They do a bit of songwriting until Wen notices the really old skinny cat from earlier. It's revealed the cat, whose name is Nancy, is all Olivia has of her deceased mother, and that prompts Wen to ask about her father and she doesn't answer him. Keep note of that for later.
So, here.
Whoa, is he playing piano with his laptop keyboard? Dude, that's impressive. He's an FL Studio god, a MIDI master, a prime pianist, a keyboard kahuna. Alright, I'll stop. That last one is pushing it. They start working on the song to Terminate, and there's a little bit of romantic subplot mixed in. Cute.
Well, this is it, guys. Our last rehearsal.
Guys, I can't believe the Halloween bash is tomorrow night.
Rising star in a few weeks.
Well, here we are at the Brad Goodman Lecture.
We know, Dad.
I just thought I'd remind everybody, after all, we did agree to attend his self-help seminar.
What an odd thing to say.
All the members of the band are feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement, a concept described by Pinkie Pie as nervous-sighted. Their nervous-sightement turns to shock, however, when they see that the lemonade machine they've been going to over the past few weeks is going to be removed.
I'd like to know what's happening to the lemonade machine in the basement.
There's a lemonade machine down there?
Yeah.
We were just wondering if it's gonna be replaced or repaired. You know, any information you have, we would really appreciate it.
Well, I'm sure it's just a mix-up.
The human embodiment of the state of Minnesota looks into her folder and explains to Stella and Wen that the lemonade machine was being removed because the school's energy drink sponsors were forcing them to remove all competing drink machines. Besides how corrupt and probably illegal this is, it is kind of funny how lemonade is somehow an alternative to energy drinks according to this school.
What? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Now, I don't care for your tone, young lady. I suggest if you have any more questions, You bring them up to Principal Brannigan yourself.
This dude just has pictures of himself in every room in the school. Like he's Kim Jong-il or something. I love him so much. I love everything about him. Wen goes home from school to find boxes everywhere in his house. His dad greets him and explains that Sydney, his girlfriend that Wen hates for those of you just joining us, is moving in because they are getting married. Wen is unhappy. Also unhappy is Mo, because Ray Fred Durst tells Mo to follow him to the weight room the following day, and she finds Scott getting really up close and personal with one of the nothing mean blonde girl characters. You'll never be Sharpay, nothing mean blonde girl character. Scott is pretty unhappy, and it's clear that Ray did it because he didn't like his guitarist girlfriend being in the rival band, but the dude kinda dug his own grave. We cut to the school's yearly Halloween party, with the band minus Olivia freaking out because they can't find her anywhere, and their set is scheduled to go on in 10 minutes. They end up hearing from one of the AV side characters that she was hiding in the bathroom. The Jesse Pinkmans tell Brannigan that Lemonade Mouth had bailed and offer to do the full set, and Brannigan seems receptive. Stella and Mo head into the girls' bathroom, followed by Wen and Charlie after a bit of time to overcome the stigma, and they find Olivia hiding in the stall having a borderline panic attack. And I gotta say, I admire how this kids movie has such a realistic portrayal of a panic attack here.
How you feeling, Olivia?
I'm great, super. But it's probably not the best idea for me to actually go out there, you know, physically.
We've got plenty, thank you. Maybe next door?
The gang tries to calm her down and convince her to do the set. They're not really breaking through until Wen notices that Stella has, like, a belt equipped with a bunch of koozies holding cans of lemonade. She's got the Pokemon trainer belt lemonade fit. Wen gives her the can through the stall, and she takes a sip and gathers the confidence to go on stage.
This just proves the point I made earlier about Olivia being better off reading in the bathroom. Like, if drinking lemonade in a bathroom stall isn't too icky for you, like, you might as well just cover your bases and skip class there too.
They go on stage and play the film's flagship song, Determinate. It opens up with some lonely piano keys and then explodes into an upbeat electropop track. The crowd seems to love it. You probably love it too. Or, at least if you watched this movie when it came out, this is the one you remember the most. It's definitely one of the better songs in the movie to me, but I do actually prefer Somebody. Even still, this is a catchy, pulsating anthem about determining things. Turning the world into your dance floor. Determinate. Determinate. Also, you know, I actually like the choreography here. One thing I found kinda silly about Camp Rock was that the music numbers in that film felt more like the focus was supposed to be on the dancers more so than the actual music performers. It was a bit too showy, at least for me, especially with the concept of the whole film. Here, however, the band members are dancing a bit and they have this signature left and right slide they do, but it's not like too out there. One thing I need to mention though is that this movie came out in 2011, and this is an anthemic pop song. What do anthemic pop songs have in 2011? That's right, a rap verse!
It's when I'm having some music like a better renegade lemonade. Use it in my medicine. Go ahead and try to name a band. We ain't better than. Reason why the whole world's picking us instead of them.
Oh my god! He's rapping so fast! He's rapping so fast!
Lemonade Mouth quickly gains fans, to the point where Ray is getting noticeably angry.
Looks like we got some competition at Rising Star, man.
No, not that good.
No, man. They're great.
Damn, they've even won Scott over. He was trying to sabotage them like 15 minutes ago.
After their first song, Stella takes the mic to make an announcement to the school about the lemonade machine in the basement and how it's being removed for the corporate sponsors, and she starts a bit of a ruckus. They even hand out a bunch of those cans, probably like at least $100 worth. And then they sing the song, Here We Go. And frankly, I'm not super big on this one. It's clearly not really meant to be a super memorable song like Determinate is, and that's fine, but it just doesn't really do much for me. It just feels sort of clumsily written. I should also note that, like, it's an electropop song, and basically all the instruments are just synths, except for a few scattered guitar strums. The drums sound electronic too. Now, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with that, but, like, they're supposed to be playing guitars and stuff. That's what they seem to be playing in the movie, even though there's, like, none of that in the actual song. And since Wen isn't even at the keyboard, the best in-universe explanation I can come up with for this is that they're just playing a pre-made backing track.
I said earlier that I don't want to be too smug about the fact that the music doesn't line up with the movie because, frankly, this is always the case in film. But in this specific situation, where basically none of the instruments being played actually match the music being heard, it's just jarring.
Principal Brannigan loses his temper and he tries to shut down the band, and he ends up, like, shutting off the power in the building. He wasn't quick enough, though, to stop Stella from making the big reveal of the Question Authority shirt she had been banned from wearing.
From the Napoleon outfit to Stella's sloganeering t-shirts, this wardrobe department has not let me down once. Except for Olivia's sky blue beanie.
We cut to the band being reprimanded at the principal's office, and man, I'm repeating myself, but I love this guy.
That was quite a show you all put on at the Halloween bash. You're very talented. Very. But just for your information, a high school dance is no place for a political tirade.
Finally, someone says it. We've got to keep the politics out of our high school dances. Anyway, Brannigan comprehensively roasts the students and as punishment decides to completely ban their band, at least from playing on campus. He only has so much control. Wen is hanging out with one of the AV kids in chemistry class, and the AV kid slips him a bootleg CD of their Halloween show. He tells Wen he's been selling them for $10 each, and offers Wen and the band 70% of the earnings.
$10 for a 2-song CD? Rip off!
The band starts to notice that they're catching on quite a bit with the student body. The school paper loved their show, and everyone except for Mudslide Crush thinks they're awesome. Charlie even seems to have caught the attention of a lot of girls, although he seems blissfully unaware of this fact. There's only room for one girl in his heart, and that's Mohini, I guess. They even start to see students put up signs and banners inspired by Lemonade Mouth's message. Damn, I wish I was that popular back in high school. I never had droves of my classmates hanging up posters of me and my YouTube channel. These kids play one show and they're already getting banners, and kids are asking them for their autographs? It's not fair. The gang meets up at their local pizza place, and Wen and Stella tell the others they were offered a few gigs there. However, the remainder of the band is hesitant to agree. Olivia cites her serious anxiety, Mo cites her fear of running into Scott again, and Charlie brings up how he's already been lying to his parents about going to soccer and he doesn't want to make it worse. Wen is down though. Wen's always down.
Guys, we mean something to people. Lemonade Mouth is their voice. It's like we're at the center of a movement here.
Guys, Switchy means something to people. He's the voice of a generation. Every time he makes a total drama video, the world stops to give it attention. That's why everyone put up Switchy banners while he was in high school. Mo notices Scott and backs out abruptly, and everyone follows her outside. She turns around and stops in shock, and everyone comes to notice a gigantic banner of the band hung over the pizza place.
No way.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Look at us up there.
Maybe we do matter.
Are they even allowed to use our likenesses like that? Like, we haven't formally agreed to doing the shows.
Anyway, they're all inspired by the banner and they take on the weekly gig at the pizza place. And to celebrate, we get a new song. This one features Mohini on lead vocals and it's called She's So Gone. The lyrics are very much about getting older and changing and not quite being the person other people expect of you. It matches up pretty well with what we've learned about Mo's father infantilizing her and not really letting her grow up. It's a pretty self-reflective song, if you can't tell by the shot of her looking at a reflection in a pizza parlor napkin dispenser. Something really funny about this song, at least to me, is that I remember it really well, but I literally forgot that it was from this movie until I rewatched it. Almost entirely. If you had brought up this song to me last year and asked me what it was from, I probably would have guessed it was a Kelly Clarkson song or something. I mean, to my credit, it's a good guess. This song could fit right in with a lot of her material both lyrically and instrumentally. It also plays like 2/3 into the movie, and that's basically always when Kelly Clarkson songs should be played in a movie. Also, I found this out while writing this video. She's So Gone has more streams on Spotify than Determinate does. That's actually a surprise to me. At this point in the film, Lemonade Mouth are not just de facto school celebrities. They've also grown to become great friends. Stella and Wen notice after school one day that Olivia hasn't shown up, so they all decide to go to her house and check in on her. It turns out that the cat from earlier passed away, and Olivia is pretty beat up about it, especially because the cat was originally her mom's. They comfort her, and the 5 of them all lie down and look at the clouds. All jokes aside, even though this is pretty Hallmark, it's a sweet scene. The 5 of them confide in each other about their family and life struggles, and Olivia suddenly blurts out that her dad is in prison.
Whoa. Wow, I had forgotten about that. It's not something I really expected to hear in a decom.
This isn't a complaint, I should make that really clear, but this really surprised me. I mean, a deceased parent and/or divorce are not uncommon family situations in these films, but at least that I know of, I can't think of many times a decom has straight up tackled the difficulties of having a convict parent. I'm really glad they did this, honestly. As I said earlier, the movie had to sanitize a lot of the book's content so it could be broadcast to young audiences, and that's understandable. But I am happy they kept this part of the story in, even if they were extremely vague on why he actually went to prison here. All Olivia really says is that after her mom died, he just made some bad decisions. Not really much detail beyond that. In case you're wondering, it was for robbery and manslaughter in the book.
I'm too humiliated to talk to him or about him. And you know, he writes, but I don't write back 'cause I don't know what to say. I mean, he's a stranger now, you know? Which is why I'm so glad to have this, you know.
To cheer up Olivia, Stella starts playing on her acoustic guitar and we get to experience another musical number. And this one's pretty good. I think it starts a little suddenly, and I feel some of the musical isms kind of pop into Olivia's reveal a little too quickly, but it's not a big deal. The number exists to show how these five have really grown to care about each other. Before this, Olivia was a big loner who carried a lot of her baggage on her own, but now she has a band, and they're not just a band, they're a group of close friends. I mean, the whole refrain of "we'll always be more than a band" is pretty straightforward. One thing I'm confused about, though, is why Stella's little brothers are just running around recording them. When did they come in? Now that I think about it, it doesn't seem like they're even in Olivia's backyard anymore. I think this might be Stella's house. I don't really know. I think it's still a sweet feel-good 6/8 tune though, and all the members actually get to sing in this one, which is fun. We cut over to Mo walking through town and being approached by Scott. He tells her that he's really sorry about what happened between them and asks to try and mend the relationship. She says she forgives him, but that she doesn't want to be in a relationship anymore.
Dead. Empty.
The band was originally called When. And I know, but after about months and months of arguing and debating Did you knock?
Yes. No, just come on, you've got to hear this.
Sydney guides Wen to the main room of his house, and they hear the song Determinate playing on the radio. He freaks out, calls Olivia, and she freaks out too. Stella, Mo, and Charlie rock out to Wen's rap verse. I guess they were already hanging out that day. Loving the dance moves, Charlie. Things are on the up and up, but everything takes a turn for the worse the day before Rising Star, the whole music competition for a record deal thing. Lemonade Mouth is doing a gig at the pizza place, and Fred Pinkman Jesse Durst starts heckling them and ends up walking on the stage and taking the microphone. Wen tries to get the mic back, and he doesn't, but he pushes Ray off the stage. Wen might be a lover at heart, but you do not want to wake up his fighter. Ray falls into a girl's lap and kinda gives her a look, which ticks her boyfriend off, and he accidentally pushes a waiter over and all hell breaks loose.
What would you think if I sang out of tune? Would you throw empty solo cups at me?
Damn, these audiences are a fickle bunch. Look into a napkin dispenser with a solemn look on your face and they can't get enough of it. But one guy falls down at a show and a whole riot breaks out.
You can tell they're just chilling out while filming this. Like, Charlie and Olivia have a pizza box thrown at them, and they hide in the corner of the stage and just eat pizza. The guys in the kitchen are using pizza trays as shields. It's fun all over, except whoever has to clean this up. Anyway, Ray gets the band fired from their gigs at the pizza place. Undeserved, but realistic. Charlie walks Mo home, and right before she enters her house, he tries to tell her how he's had feelings for her.
I like you, Mo. There, I said it.
We're just friends, Charlie. Good friends, that's all.
Fine.
Charlie, please.
No, you know what? Be heard. It's a stupid song. I'm never singing it again.
No, Charlie, no.
You don't like me back, Mo? Well, you know what? Your music sucks. You're a terrible bassist. You can't even do a root and fifth right. You never lock in with my kick right. It's no wonder we always turn you so low in the mix. And what was that napkin dispenser to be or not to be reflection shit? Is that your attempt at the elegant use of a prop? Screw you, Mo. We could have been together. We could have been a rhythm section match made in heaven, Mo. Also, I'm surprised that apparently Mo wrote Be Heard or Here We Go, their Lemonade protest song. At least according to this scene. I would have really expected Stella to have written that. Charlie leaves and Mo gets beckoned in by her dad. Ooh, she's in trouble. He reprimands her for spending her time on boys and rock music and how she's insulting him by wasting the opportunity he gave her by coming to the country and working hard for her and all that stuff. They argue and he storms off, and Mo's mother notices she's coming down with a fever. Meanwhile, Charlie angry drums and breaks one of his sticks. He goes over to get a new one, and he takes it, and
it always gets me, even after several rewatches.
Wen is helping his dad put up a photo, and his dad asks him to be his best man. Wen loses focus because of the question, loses his grip, and hits himself in the eye with the corner of the frame.
Damn, these characters are like voodoo dolls to me.
Mo has 102 fever. Charlie has 3 broken fingers. Tomorrow's gonna be a disaster.
Well, we'll just call him back out.
Wow, back out of Rising Star, out of everything we've been through?
I mean, Olivia, I admire your resilience, but your drummer broke 3 fingers. Like, that's a pretty fair reason to cancel the show. Especially because Wen can barely see right now because of his black eye. Olivia asks Wen about his black eye and he recounts the whole best man story. She tells him she should be excited to be his dad's best man, but he says that he's not happy about his dad's wedding and he shouldn't have to be. Olivia replies saying he's ridiculous and he sort of storms off. She says that they still have to talk about their plans for the show, but even Wen at this point is willing to cancel. And Wen is basically always down for the music.
No, maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time to call it quits.
What, so you just want to give up?
You just be happy that you're off the hook and that you don't have to go on stage anymore.
No. When this isn't about Lemonade Mouth. This is about you not appreciating what you have.
It actually is kinda about Lemonade Mouth, Olivia. I have a black eye. Our drummer basically broke his hand. Are you really that gung-ho about forcing our drummer to drum with a broken hand?
You have a family! Your dad, your sister, Sydney! I don't even remember my mom. I haven't talked to my dad in years, and you have the nerve to feel sorry for yourself? Well, okay, no, fine. Go ahead, give up. See if I care. I didn't even want to be in this band in the first place.
Then why did you do it?
For you jerk! Did it for you.
Apparently Olivia lost her voice here, which is kinda hard to believe. I mean, she yelled, but not that hard.
Anyway, as a kid, I really did not like this scene.
I should preface this critique by pointing out that this is more so an observation I had when I was like 9 or 10. But when I first watched this movie, I thought this scene was trying to frame Olivia as totally the good person and Wen to be totally the bad person. And I didn't like that. It felt really black and white and reductive to Wen's arc as a character. Nowadays, I'm a little bit more nuanced about it. I think it was more so an issue with the camera and editing direction than the script, but I still think Wen is sort of unfairly villainized in this scene. I mean, first of all, I think a broken hand, flu, black eye, and now a lost voice is a pretty reasonable reason to cancel a gig. Maybe some real rock and roll purists might disagree, but I'm pretty firm about this belief, unless you're willing to replace 4 out of the 5 members with backups. Beyond that, though, I took issue with the way Olivia shot down Wen's emotions in the way she did, especially the nerve to feel sorry for yourself line. Now, obviously, never knowing one's mother and having a father in prison is a painful and unfortunate situation to be in, and I can get why Olivia would feel that way and say such a thing, but I still think Wen's emotions of feeling displaced in his own family are valid. Divorce and remarriage aren't always easy to experience for the kid, after all. To be fair to people who might argue with me over this, it is worth saying that Wen is pretty antagonistic towards Sydney in the way he talks about her. That's definitely true, but even then, I still feel like it's a little too black and white. The way Olivia gets to yell at him and dramatically storm off with third act acoustic guitar music while he just has an "I messed up" face seems undeserved. I feel like the scene could have been a bit more nuanced in its direction and not paint Wen in such a bad light.
I want to make it clear, though, that I don't necessarily have a problem with how this scene is written. It's more so to do with how the direction leads us to interpret it.
I think Olivia weighing their struggles in that competitive way is pretty juicy from a writing perspective, but the way the scene is done just feels lopsided. I think both of these characters carry a lot of baggage, and I can get the fight happening, but I just feel like it treats the fight as a bit too good versus evil, as opposed to a more morally ambiguous approach. We transition to Stella making her way to school in front of a truck, and calling the others telling them that they need to come over. They all come, conveniently at the exact same time, and discover that she is protesting the removal of the lemonade machine.
You're kidding me, right? In this weather?
Hey man, it looks like a pretty sunny day to me based on how the light is hitting the characters. It just seems that, for whatever reason, the editor decided to turn the tint or white balance all the way in one direction to make it blue and dark.
I'll admit, I'm not a professional filmmaker and I couldn't tell you what the best method of faking rainy weather is, but there's gotta be something better than this, right? This feels like something I would have done when I was 13. It's like only a little bit better than turning the opacity down to make a daylight scene nighttime. I guess these films are pretty low budget, but I was honestly surprised by this.
You move or I move you. It's your choice, kid.
I am not moving until you put our lemonade machine.
Have it your way, kid.
Hey, no! Hey, put her down!
Holy crap. Wow. I mean, I guess the Nancy dying scene was the official signifier of how much these guys have really grown to care about each other, but at this point, they're ride or die. Like, Mo climbs on one of the guys. Lemonade Mouth does not mess around. The cops show up at the scene and we cut to our heroes locked in a holding cell. Pretty much everyone has given up at this point, except for Stella and sort of Olivia. She tries to pump them up and encourage them to try and do the show, but Charlie, Wen, and Mo are checked out.
So we lose. So what? Lemonade Mouth is bigger than a competition. We did it to be heard. For our fans. For ourselves. For our friendship. Thank you.
In case you haven't noticed, Stella, we're in a holding cell. Okay, and you're the only one to blame.
Me?
Yeah, it's pretty much all your fault, Stella.
Yeah, it kinda is.
The five of them all start moping on their own, dreading the arrival of their parents, as Charlie starts rhythmically tapping a coin, and Mo starts pulling on a rubber band, and Wen starts zipping up and down, and oh, okay, we're really doing this. Huh. Well, if you can't beat them, join them. Anyway, they break out into song, and together they decide to give the show a shot no matter what. It's not exactly going to be easy, or even possible, but you know, power of friendship, I guess. And finally, we get to probably my favorite scene in the whole film. All of our 5 Lemonheads are picked up and met not with anger, but with love and understanding. Olivia's grandmother isn't even mad and is just happy to see her in one piece. Aww. Wen gets picked up by Sydney because his dad is stuck at work. Instead of complaining or being whiny, he gives her a big-ass hug. Aww. And this is the movie Wen, not book Wen, so he's probably doing it for the right reasons. Mo's dad initially gives her the cold shoulder, but she stands up for herself and says straight up that she's her own person and will never quite fit into the perfect ideal of an Indian daughter he has in his head. Her words, not mine, by the way. She asks for him to be more patient with her and let her be her own person, and fortunately gets through to him. Aww. Charlie braces himself to be comprehensively roasted by his parents, but is relieved to see his older brother in the car instead. His brother encourages him to stand up to his parents about what he personally wants to do and also admits that he's been doing pretty badly in school. The two agree to stand together and tell their parents about their struggles straight up. Aww. And finally, Stella meets up with her mom. Like the others, she expects to be in trouble, but her mom tells her she's actually proud. Stella might not be a genius like the rest of her family, but she's super headstrong and a total go-getter who stood up for what she believed in and encouraged the people around her to do the same. Aww. No, but seriously, this one is really sweet to me. I really like the whole message about finding your own strength and not letting your worth as a person be valued by arbitrary criteria. It kinda adds to my whole theory about Stella being the de facto main character of this movie.
I'll totally admit that I'm a sucker for these kinds of scenes, but I really do love how these characters' arcs are resolved here. Even the more underexplored characters like Charlie get a lot out of a little.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rising Star presents Mudslide Crush!
Oh my gosh, is that what I think it is? Is he wearing a t-shirt of his own face? That's his fit? Like the 6th grader from South Park?
Wow. Wow, that is something.
Like the song And the Crowd Goes, this is another piece of DCOM villain tacky-core, and honestly, I think I like it less than the last one. Mostly just because I found the ridiculousness of their other song to be kind of hilarious. This one doesn't have the same kind of absurd sound and character. I don't know. I do think it's funny how the lyrics for the whole song are basically just telling the audience how much they suck. I also like the "You're MIA, we're VIP, you're LOL, we're BIG" line, but that's more so just because it makes me nostalgic for the exact moment when Disney started trying to lean more into internet culture as a means of being hip with the kids. They would later perfect this art with TTYLXOX by Bella Thorne.
Girls are waiting to get their picture taken with the crush.
Dude, come on. You're a popular high school band. Temper yourself.
It's worth saying as well that I kind of love how everyone just seems enamored with their music. Despite the fact that Lemonade Mouth is watching them looking confused the whole time, eventually even they are like, damn, they're good. Mudslide Crush finishes its song, and its lead singer Pink Durst Fredman Ray taunts Lemonade Mouth like you'd expect. Scott gives the band a serious wish good luck though. The band comes on stage and they're greeted with a crazy applause by basically everyone in the movie, parents, students, and teachers alike.
Trying hard to fight these tears. I'm crazy worried. Messing with my head, this fear.
Olivia basically shuts off. Wen can't even see his keys, and Mo keeps on coughing. Stella tries to keep playing guitar, and Charlie holds a beat the best he can, but it falls apart pretty quickly. I find this so hard to watch. Not because the movie is doing anything wrong, I'm just so easily hit by secondhand embarrassment scenes. So, all seems lost for Lemonade Mouth. They bomb the show and can barely gather the courage to leave the stage. Eesh. However, Scott tries to help out by taking out his guitar and backing them up. Ray tells him if he does that, he's out of the band, and he takes it. I guess he really just cares that much about Mo.
Trying hard to fight these tears. I'm crazy worried. Messing with my head, this fear. I'm so sorry. You know you gotta get it out. I can't take it. That's what being friends about.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
So, the crowd basically sings for the band, and does the whole show for them. Basically.
We didn't win Rising Star, but we won something bigger that night.
I don't really know for sure what she meant by that. I guess just, like, overcoming such odds or something. Anyway, we come to the feel-good conclusion of the movie. Scott approaches Mo after school one day and they agree to try pursuing a relationship again. He also actually joins Lemonade Mouth as a sixth member. Ugh, that must be hell to tour. I actually find Scott's redemption arc kind of interesting, because that is not what happened in the book. She falls in love with Charlie there, and here, Charlie doesn't even seem that beat up about it. I guess to be fair, they made the point that he's a hit with the ladies in this movie, when that is also not the case in the book. It doesn't take him long to get together with one of the side characters. I don't really mind this, by the way, I just think it's interesting. I think this honestly happens a lot in Disney Channel original movies. At least one of the cartoonish bad characters just becomes besties with the good guys. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about that little love story. Speaking of little love stories, Wen goes to visit Olivia and gives her a kitten as a gift.
Where did you get her?
One of Sydney's old roommates found a whole litter and thought of you.
Wen's dad marries Sydney, and basically everyone goes to the wedding. They're pretty generous with the +1s, not gonna lie.
That's my bandmate up there.
And that's my old college buddy. See, you and me were like practically best friends already.
She's 16!
It turns out that Wen's dad's college buddy here is actually the owner of Mel's Lemonade, which is the lemonade company that inspired the band in the first place. Stella asks him if he's willing to sponsor an arts program in the school.
Sometimes risking it all to have your voice heard pays off in ways you never imagined. Mel understood this, and was more than happy to help us build a place where all our voices could be heard.
Bro, that is not a high school auditorium. That looks like the kind of performing arts center you'd find across the street from City Hall. Either Mel is loaded or they just couldn't find a better place to film.
Even Brannigan is hyped about the whole thing. I think they meant for that to be a minor redemption, but honestly, it just makes him look even more bought and paid for.
Who would have thought Stella did all of this?
You know, she'd actually make a very good principal one day.
What?
Well, I used to be a bit of a rebel myself back in the day.
Really? Oh, Stanley.
What's happening there?
Lemonade Mouth!
And that, Dad, is how Lemonade Mouth came to be. I can't wait to tell you the rest in person. I really miss you, Dad. Love, Olivia.
Aw, that's nice. That's sweet. It warmed my heart.
Like seriously, I love how this entire movie is framed as a narrated letter from Olivia to her dad. That tugged at my heartstrings. I like that.
One thing I don't like, though, is one of the changes they made towards the end of the movie. Well, I guess it's in the beginning as well. I mentioned earlier how there were a lot of changes from the book and how I don't mind and understand most of them. But one thing I didn't like is how near the end of the movie, they're suddenly chart-topping superstars.
Because, wow, they're playing at Madison Square Garden now and they have millions of fans. And it seems that Stella, Mo, and Olivia just sing now because none of them are using their instruments. That's a bit out there, and frankly, I prefer how the book ended a lot more. Now, the whole Rising Star performance happened pretty similarly, but it didn't end with them suddenly becoming the biggest band in the world. They did become a bit of a local sensation, and the clip of them screwing up their show became semi-viral, but they never became rock stars or anything. They became like Dave After Dentist, or Charlie Bit My Finger, or Star Wars Kid. Some of you Gen Alpha guys might not know what I mean by that. I'm getting old. The characters talk about being sort of a laughingstock, but also being seen as not afraid to be themselves and embrace their weirdness. And honestly, I think that's a much more likable ending to the movie than Madison Square Garden. The whole embracing weirdness thing is really downplayed in this film compared to the book where the characters are described as outcasts and not very good looking, but still, I think they could have ended the movie right when Olivia puts the letter in the mailbox, and that would have been enough. It would have been a lot more down to earth too, I think.
To be fair though, this is, you know, the Disney Channel, the channel of Hannah Montana and Austin and Ally. This kind of teenage power fantasy is par for the course.
To this movie's credit, the song that plays here, Breakthrough, is one of the best songs in the soundtrack. The lyrics are about overcoming hardships and taking your life into your own hands. It's propulsive, fun, and very danceable. The visuals and choreography are great too. Like, we definitely know where their rainy day budget went. Anyway, in this movie's fashion, they play one song and that's their whole set. Roll credits. But the movie is not done yet, because there's a post-credit scene. Great. Truth to tell, this was in 2011. People weren't really complaining about them yet. It's basically the band doing an interview where they're asked about how they're now the biggest music group in America and how their lives have changed. The interviewer, named Moxie Morris, kind of a Marvel character adult film star vibe that name is giving me, asks Mo and Scott how their relationship is going, and suddenly Mo's dad starts making a ruckus from the crowd. Apparently, he didn't know that she and Scott were dating. She tries to get him to stop, and to save the situation, Olivia says that she and Wen have been dating.
I mean, me and Wen, we've been dating-ish, I guess. Haven't we? I mean, I think we haven't we? Sort of, or not, it's okay.
I would make fun of that, but that's just how I talk in real life, so.
Oh, no, yeah, she's my girl.
Also, they play another song called High Wire, and honestly, I can take or leave this one. I don't really like Wen's rap intro and refrain throughout the song. It sort of feels at odds with the rest of it. Also, apparently Scott plays bass now and Mo just sings. I'm glad Stella's playing her guitar though. The performance of Breakthrough was basically just a dance routine. I don't even know where the music was supposed to be coming from there.
Seeing that the heads are moving, move off your seat. Achieving's what we really doing, freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech! Yeah, go off, Wen.
Granted, I think the song improves a lot towards the end. I really like some of the vocal performances in the last bit, so credit where credit is due, I guess.
So, here we are. We finished the hour and 53 minutes of Lemonade Mouth. Yeah, an hour and 53 minutes. That's longer than I would have expected. It's not super long, but still, I would have expected it to be like 10 or 15 minutes shorter. Anyway, so what do I think? Yeah, it's alright. Yeah, it's cute.
I think most of the criticisms I and most people can give Lemonade Mouth are criticisms you can give of, like, basically any Disney Channel original movie. It's pretty kitschy at times, and the acting isn't always that great, and that's kind of a given. The dialogue is pretty one-dimensional, and it's all pretty thematically obvious as well. But as I said, this is more or less the case with all DCOMs, and honestly, on some level, these films need to be written this way. The main audience these are intended for are kids from the age of like 6 to 12, and when you're making a teen drama for an audience at that age, you sort of have to make all the characters very overt in their intentions so it's not confusing or boring. Still though, I think these movies could have benefited from trying to cast a wider net and make a better effort to be appealing to older audiences. Because unless you either grew up with these movies and have a lot of nostalgia, or are under the age of 12, Lemonade Mouth probably won't do much for you, even with Principal Brennigan. That being said, I, really enjoy all of the film's main characters. They all come off as really likable, and they have lives I think a lot of people can relate with. Obviously Wen is my favorite, but I see myself in pretty much all of the main 5 here, and they're all really easy to cheer for. Even Charlie, who I think compared to the others is really sidelined compared to how he fits into the book, has his moments here. I also think the music is pretty good. Like, of all the DCOM soundtracks I'm really familiar with, this one is also probably my favorite. Even more so than the High School Musical movies. As a whole though, Bop to the Top is still probably the best song to ever come out of the Disney Channel and debatably the peak of human art. ¿Quieres bailar? Mírame.
The only thing I personally feel the need to critique is that it feels like a lot of the unique character of the book is a bit watered down, like a delicious lemonade having its sour tang taken away. In the book, pretty much all the characters are described as outcasts, with the exception of Mo, and part of the charm of the band was how they all kind of came to terms with their weirdness and sort of embraced it.
I mean, in the movie, the band plays pretty straightforward Disney pop rock, but the book constantly describes their music as a really weird hodgepodge of styles. Stella played a ukulele, Mo played a double bass, Wen played a trumpet, and Charlie had a bunch of bongos, timbales, and congas instead of a traditional rock drum set. In concession, it's a lot easier to describe music like that in a purely written format than it is to actually compose and produce in a tangible audiovisual setting, but I don't know. For the Disney Channel audience, it was a pretty reasonable decision to make. I'm just really curious now what the original author of the book was imagining in his head when he wrote it. They also probably had to work with what the performers, writers, and producers were actually familiar with instead of making them write music for the crazy mix of instruments originally described. And because they took some creative license, we got Adam Hicks to rap here, so there's a lot of good that came out of that decision. Fun fact, the movie originally didn't have Wen rap, but when Adam Hicks rapped in his audition, they decided to cast him and make Wen take on some hip-hop verses. I think that's a cute story. He even wrote his own lyrics for those parts and has a writing credit for them.
Even though some of the cheeky weirdness of the original book is taken out here, I still think the core themes about the power of friendship, self-love, and standing up for oneself come through really well. And the music is the cherry on top of it all. Of all the Disney Channel original movies I've been watching these past few months, I still think this one is my favorite. And you know what? Honestly, I got a lot out of reading the book. I'll admit that I can't really give a super informed opinion on it, given I haven't read another young adult novel other than this one in like 6 or 7 years. But I really enjoyed seeing the wider story of this film I had grown up watching as a kid. It was interesting to see what was similar and what was different. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Turn the world into your dance floor. Break through. It's the moment you've got to go for it, so don't let it get away. Live on a high wire. I'll see you guys around. Shit, I am such a slob.